Hi, welcome back. This is part two of the, I suppose, my holiday week up in the loft. Trying to get the basics of the layout running so that I've got stuff running and then I can carry on scenicking between the boards and finishing off the current boards. So I'll just do a tour along of what I got up to today. So as you can see, I've been using the, I suppose, my track template, curve templates, try and work out where I want my two lines to go around the corner into the sort of what will eventually be the Aylesbury board, but at the moment it'll just be a sort of a storage siding for them to go to, and I can just test out the curve radius and see how they run. So I just still need to pin down the track. I'll try and get that down tomorrow, I think. So everything's now powered up to my two old clipper controllers, so for my up, my down line, and then Wendover board, it's just really been bringing up all the other bits, so I think everything's up apart from the backdrop. Done the track and the cork, everything between the two. I've tried doing, this is where my DC connects into the lines. I've tried attaching the wires at the side. They're not as neat as I thought they were going to be, so I will look at exploring attaching the wires underneath the bottom of the track and dropping them through that way. But that was my first ever go at doing droppers. So yeah, today's all been about doing things for the first time really that I haven't had to do before. So this is the start of my London Underground DCC line. So I managed to get that set up today. Tracks all cut, connected together. I've tested it with DC power just to check everything runs, and that's all fine. So tomorrow I will hopefully get the DCC select controller working with some chipped rolling stock. In terms of the Amersham station, probably not much changed from what you've seen on earlier episodes. I've just got everything up here now. So obviously the road bridge through, which was I think one of the previous but one episode. I've still got the road at the back to finish off, the Iron Horse pub. A new one you might have seen before, so this is the Scale Scenes bus depot. So I'm sort of making Amersham a transport hub, and I'll mark that up as Amersham bus depot. If you really want to know more about that, it's in an earlier episode. Not done much more to the station yet. I still need to do all the signage and stuff, but I'll be doing that later in April, getting the lights all sorted out as well. So and connecting it, but now it's up in the loft, I can do that. And then also you need to do the back drop for this part, and then obviously track goes off a cliff. I will make up the next subframe so that I can just put the next bit of board in, which will just allow me to complete Amersham car park and the good shed that I did a sort of kit bash on a couple of episodes back, where I've sort of transformed it from the Hornby good shed to something more applicable to the layout. So that's where we're at. Good morning. So day 7 of the holiday build. As you can see, this is the wall of inspiration I have of the stuff I want to get up in the loft in the future. So the bottom two have changed. So I've obviously got my red 1938 stock going up in the loft for my underground line, and so I thought I would replace it. This is what I remember as a child running around and taking from Amersham. So yeah, it feels realistic. It should get up there eventually. This is obviously the new one that came out in January, the Heathrow line, which I did ride on a few times out to Heathrow from Uxbridge. And then above, I sort of picked these up last year just because on eBay and liked the look of them. I see cows. I've got 7 in all. I haven't fully decided what I'm going to do today. I think I'll just let the day evolve and have fun, and probably spend a lot of it just running trains. Catch you later. Well, as you saw, I've been playing trains in the loft with my underground all DCC'd up, so it was a good day. So I managed to get all 3 programmed in, and I still need to work out a numbering system. So they've, a bit like a police car, they've got a little sticker on the roof, tell you which one is which, because they all look the same, apart from obviously the silver one. So a couple of things. So obviously I need to put in a physical stop at the end there, because otherwise they're just going to fall off, and I need to fix the Grand Canyon at this end. So I'll put the board in tomorrow, and I think I'm going to create a bit of a dead zone of track, just so that if I'm running the DC Chiltern line, I'm right down the other end of the room, so I don't want trains just running off the tracks at the end. So I'll create a dead zone that no power, just to stop any unwanted accidents occurring when I'm not paying attention. Morning. So this is day 8. So I've got my detailed plans and cut the wood out on the table saw, so just assemble up the frame. So I just made up a simple hole template. It just allows me, it saves me having to keep going up to the loft to measure up where the last slot were. Morning again. So day 9, last day, and we're up in the high-tech spray booth. Can't believe it was 19 degrees yesterday and sunny. Today is not 19 degrees. Okay, I'll crack on. So as you can see, I've started on some drain pipes, and I've got my trackside from Tim Surf, arrived in the parcel yesterday, so just spraying up with some Chaos Black. So it's been a bit of a mix of finish off. So I've got my last DMU converted over with the brass bearings and the metal wheels, and they're running nicely. And then I've just started on my timber surf trackside, so sprayed them up in black, as you saw earlier, but I can't. I sort of went for, what was it? The original one was the rail grey, and now I'm on Mirage Blue grey, which I'm preferring, I think. But anyway, we'll see where we get to. Oh, and listening to the Reverend Iron Horse is always entertaining. Good for a Sunday. Just been checking the clearance on the track side cabling and timber surf, so I need to raise these up in a little plinth as they're a bit tight for the main line, but the underground will be fine. 4 months today since we left Yorkshire and moved north, so I'm really pleased to have a small running layout in the loft that I can slowly progress around the loft room as I work through the different scenes and stages. So if you've not watched any of the early ones, I'm building this layout sort of board at the time rather than trying to build the whole infrastructure in one go, because it's going to take me several years to build this layout. I'm sort of predicting about 8 years. So yeah, 4 months into 8 years doesn't sound like a lot. My first target was just to get up in the loft and have something running. So I've achieved that. So I've been doing a lot of mulling again. So, and I'm trying to decide what I want to do, I suppose, between now and the end of the year. So I will carry on. There's a target by Christmas to have got to the far end of the loft, turn the corner to do the How on the Hill station, and sort of just turn the corner again facing what will eventually be my London stations. And they're going to be developed next year along with Aylesbury, so that will happen next year. So the two ends of my Chiltern line, because my Chiltern line is basically an end-to-end layout. But I have a few challenges ahead of me, and so what I've been mulling this weekend, now that I've sort of got the first sort of stage set up, is what to focus on for the remainder of this year that is going to help me for next year. So challenge one is the Aylesbury board. It's also going to be the Marylebone board, but it's going to be Aylesbury board first, because I'm going to do that one first. And if you watched an earlier episode where I showed you this thing, my mechanical point changer. So there's an episode called Levers and Bell Cranks, and I basically take the concept that Gormo shows in his earlier videos years ago that he uses for a great Chesterfield junction. That's how I've called it. Sorry, Gormo, if I got it wrong. I want to do Aylesbury and Marylebone as a completely mechanical point changing system. There's, in my current design for Aylesbury, I'm fairly settled on what I'm going to do, simply because I'm going to replicate a lot of the Aylesbury I remember as a child. It's not the Aylesbury today. I'll explain that next year. There's quite a lot of changes. And so I've got about 13 points at the moment. And obviously to have 13 points with these various rods and bell cranks and levers running under the board is going to be a bit of a challenge if I'm not 100% sure that's where I want the track to sit. So what I'm going to do for the remainder of this year is just lay out my initial ideas for Aylesbury, and I can then try it and run it with the DMUs and a little bit of freight to see if it actually works well, and fiddle around with any sort of final positionings so that I can eventually have a fixed template that the track's layout is sorted, and that'll then make it easier for me to then start planning how to do the rodding, basically, to do the point changing. So that's challenge one, so I can do that. There's nothing stopping me doing that. What I've also been thinking about is, do I actually need to power the Aylesbury board? Now that might sound a bit crazy. Because it's DC, if I have two droppers just at the entrance to the Aylesbury board for each line, obviously I've got 3 lines coming in, they're all powered, and effectively the power of the Aylesbury board will come from the point flow through. So whatever points are open would then power up that part of the track. And effectively, because I'm just running mainly DMUs in on 2 lines, and then I've got a 3rd line which will have DMU and a little bit of freight, I think I can actually do most of it without actually having to power the Aylesbury board. So that's something else I want to try out this year. I may need to put occasional, I suppose, far end power inputs that I can turn on and off if I need to, because there's possibility of a couple of things I want to do that might sort of create dead zones, so I can sort of localize power up those. So effectively I'm going to create it as sort of a small power block, but most of the station will be powerless, fed from the main lines. So that's mulling 1. Mulling 2 was more about the London Underground. So I've got, obviously, you can see on the wall, I think it's just below where you can see the camera. So I've got 3 of the 4 carriage London Underground trains, and then obviously I've got the ones I converted over, so I've got like a 3.5 trains. So at Amersham, I can't get them all in. As I've maybe said, I think in the very first episode, I wanted to build this layout. There's no staging yards at all. I want all my stock to earn its place on the layout. If it doesn't have a place, I don't need it, so I'll sell it. I don't intend to have a great storage yard holding stuff. Everything will be visible and out. And so I'm conscious of the fact that Amersham is not big enough to hold my underground stock, and it needs a sort of underground hub. The logical one for that is going to be to build Uxbridge. I spent 7 years at Uxbridge, so at the university, and so travelled through Uxbridge station weekly at some points, daily at some points almost. So I knew it very well, and it has 4 lines into the station. So that itself would hold quite a lot of stock, and then to the side of the station there was a big I suppose storage siding. So, but there's a few things I don't like about Uxbridge. I'll leave that for later. But yeah, so the idea of building Uxbridge, and there's certain bits of the architecture outside of Uxbridge as you enter it I really like, but I've decided I'm going to sort of take the concept of Uxbridge and develop it into my own big underground hub. So I suppose you might be asking the question, well, why are you going through all of this, Mark? You know, why don't you just get on with what you're doing in the loft? So I'm not really going to have, building Uxbridge is quite a big scratch build in the way I want to build it. As we sort of got to early November last year, we knew we'd sold our house down south in the Midlands, and we knew we were getting very close to completing on purchase of where I currently live. And I had to start packing up all the buildings that I'd scratch built whilst up in Yorkshire, because obviously at that point I just had the framework at the side, and so I was rapidly building buildings so that once we got here I wouldn't have to spend a lot of time scratch building. But these last 3 months I've really missed doing the scratch building. So in terms of what I've got to do between now and Christmas, there's not a lot of scratch building left to do. There's a lot of finishing off to do. my weakest point is finishing off. As you probably, if you look at Wendover very closely, you'll notice there's no chimney pots, there's no drain pipes. Chimney pots I left because I knew I just knocked them off, but it's those like final little details that I just, I'll have a chimney pot day and I'll just blitz Amersham and Wendover and wherever else I am and sort of get those final details on, but I'm not a great finisher. I quite enjoy the long haul of getting most of the stuff done, but I tend to then drift on to other stuff. Anyway, I'm rambling. So whilst we were that last sort of 6 weeks packing up, obviously I couldn't build anything. So I started to work on a design for Uxbridge Station in my mind. It's going to be quite a grand station, a lot grander than Uxbridge is. But I sort of feel because it's my underground hub, it deserves it. And I quite like the idea of creating a whole station from scratch myself, really, in the design of it. So it's quite radical in terms of what I'm going to put together. So what I'm going to do is, I think it's probably going to take me the remainder of this year to just build the scratch build the Uxbridge building that will be front of the station, and then the platform parts. And so I don't think I'll have time to do all of that next year and do Aylesbury and do Marylebone. So I quite like the idea of doing a massive scratch build separate project that I can do down here. I keep pointing to the side, I'll show you in a minute. And so I'm going to create a sort of mini series within this sort of every couple of weeks documenting what I'm doing in the loft as I build the layout. And so it's going to be called Mind the Gap, and it's basically just going to be the Uxbridge Station build. So if you see future episodes that start with the Mind the Gap, you'll know it's all about the underground. I'm not sure if the London Underground's everybody's cup of tea. It's quite a niche YouTube area, so there aren't many people who solely model the underground. Obviously the most famous will be Underground Eric, who's a great inspiration to me, and I know to a lot of other people. He's a very popular YouTuber. More importantly as well, he's a young YouTuber, model railway. There's a lot of criticism early this year that we're old farts, and I'm an old fart in that category, but most of the YouTubers I'm currently watching at the moment are all younger guys. So okay, so very quickly, mulling 3, obviously in year 3-4 I want to be up on the second deck doing my West Coast line that's basically going to run up to Rugby, and obviously the incline is really critical for this whole layout to work, and I can't wait 3 years to discover that the incline's not going to work. So whilst I'm doing the current section that I've got 3.6 meters long, I can test out the incline that I need to use at the back of the scenics section over Wendover and Amersham that will hold 4 lines that will run up effectively from level 1 to level 2. I roughly know where the height will be as it passes over Amersham and Wendover, so the exact height's not too critical because I'm going to make it such that I can adjust it slightly, but I just want to see, does the incline work with the trains? It should do. It's only going to be 2% incline. It's just more how that incline sits over the scenic board beneath. So you'll see a little bit of that going on this year. That's just me trying a couple of things out. I don't need to permanently fix that structure in yet, but if it works, I might do. So that was mulling 3, and then the last one, mulling 4, was this stuff. So if you ever watched the very first episode where I talk about the whole layout, I built this structure in Yorkshire so that I had a couple of baseboard tops that I could do. So Wendover was sat here, and I've gone up into the loft, and obviously Amersham had started down here. I don't need all of this, so I'm just going to break down the first half and just keep the corner part, because that'll be more useful. So this is my sort of scratch build area, so I can mock up stations and do the build, and I can work in the evenings and also in the warmth of winter and the heat of summer downstairs, so it's a bit more comfortable. So that will tidy up this area as well, as stuff's just spreading out everywhere. Well, this is probably a good place to end for this week. So I've just been mocking up the trackside cabling and trunking as it goes over the underground, and how to join from one side to the other. I've had a good week, made lots of progress, really pleased to be up in the loft, trains running as you've seen. So I'll go back to my usual focus on board. So I just need to get Amersham finished. I think that's going to be the first priority. I don't want to start something else without finishing it off. So I'll do that first, and then we'll just see what April brings. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching. Cheers to those who enjoyed the part 1, and I hope you enjoyed part 2 and had a good Easter break yourselves. Cheers.